Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Distinguished scholars, esteemed elders, my respected brothers, sisters, youngsters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is further to the message and statement of the President of the World Federation that was shared with me by some of the brothers from Dar es Salaam. The statement mentioned his statement whereby he said, we went for a call of paper. This was in the opening address. He said, we went for a call of paper. A research institute requires that you send a call of paper. Anybody can. People who are now challenging us, come for a debate, come for a, this part of the statement was not completed, but I guess he meant to say come for a dialogue. To which he responded by saying, we don't debate with any person out there. When you want to discuss, call for paper has come, present a paper. If you're academically qualified, it qualifies for this event, then present a paper. So we have some more thoughts and reflections that we have already shared in another video that's going to be released by Al-Islah. But with regard to the demand that we present a paper or research at this conference, I've already clarified that as far as the question of reason and revelation or intellect and revelation and what kind of relationship is supposed to exist between the two, this is something that I have covered in my researches. If I can showcase my CV here. If you go to page 9, which is where I have listed my research papers. So these are the national and international conferences that I have presented research papers at. And so I had mentioned how this is a topic that we've already had a conference on. This was the International Seminar on Reason and Religion as a way to defeat extremism and the contribution of India and Iran in development of Kalam-e-Jadid, with special reference to the role of Sir Sayyid as the founder of Kalam. This was organized by the Department of Shia Theology, Aligarh Muslim University, between the 6th and 8th of September 2017. So this paper, if you want to access it, you can find it in the published proceedings, and you can also contact the department itself. I usually don't have access to all videos that are recorded of my presentations, but I believe this event was actually recorded. And so if the department is contacted, they might have video footage of the paper that I presented. Beyond this, so these are, right. Beyond this, I have also presented bayan on Al-Islah itself. There are some videos that I will request the admins to link to the description of this particular video so that those who are interested in finding out more about what the Al-Islah position is on the whole revelation to intellect relationship, they can refer to these detailed videos. But since Pramukh Saab says that when you want to discuss, call for paper has come, present a paper, I will respond to this invitation of his by submitting a short presentation here, some food for thought. If they're really serious in including dissenting voices or what they like to label as alternative or deviant voices, although it remains for the audience to judge whether what we will be presenting, I will not be presenting anything from my pocket here, simply Quran and authenticated narrations from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, which have been authenticated by the top scholars of Ilm al-Rijal and the top experts in the field of hadith. So if you call this these ahadith of the Imams deviant and alternative thinking, then that's maybe something for you to consider, that how has our sect come so far away from guidance that now when verses of the Quran and authentic narrations of the Imams are presented, we somehow hold that as a kind of deviant or alternative thinking. But in any case, since I assume that the President wants us to present something, because he's saying when you want to discuss, call for paper has come, present a paper if you're academically qualified. it qualifies for this event. So alhamdulillah, if you are in doubt about my academic qualifications, I can share my CV, which I've done, which is actually available online. It's got all the data, it's got all the academic qualifications, all the way up to my PhD and my university medals that I was awarded at the undergraduate, postgraduate level for standing first and securing highest marks in master's and postgraduate courses in my entire faculty. That was back in 2013, and also securing highest marks in the faculty in my bachelor's degree, which was the examination for which was held in 2011, my national eligibility test, which was qualified in 2012, my scholarships, research fellowships, senior research fellowships, teaching and work experience. It's all in there. I've been teaching for quite some time now. I have administrative editorial experience. These are my awards and honors. I have participated extensively in international and national conferences and seminars. I've been felicitated by the Vice Chancellor of our university for bringing laurels to the Aligarh Muslim University. I have certificates for all of this. I represented the Aligarh Muslim University in the All India Sayyid Memorial Debate. I was honored with the Best Logic Award at the National Symposium. And I've also been awarded the Best Paper Award at various conferences. And then this is a list of my research papers that I presented in national and international conferences and seminars. So there are tons of them that are held every year, different parts of India, abroad. And I've been doing my fair share, presenting my research at these. So I don't know, people were saying he's trying to question your academic credentials. Alhamdulillah, my CV runs in 31 pages. And these are all national conferences, international seminars, research scholar seminars. We've done tons of those, and we have publications in renowned periodicals and journals, both within this country and abroad. And these are all my publications. This is translation work. These are my forwards in published books. These are my invited lectures as a resource person by UGC recognized bodies. These are papers presented in international webinars, workshops attended. It's all in there basically. So if they have a problem with my academic credentials, they might want to go through my 31-page CV. Inshallah, they will see that as far as the academic sphere is concerned, we have been very active by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I usually don't like to showcase this. One of the criticisms against Al-Islah in the beginning was for a lot of the people who, for the very first time they saw Al-Islah lectures, they were like, well, you're giving such good lectures, but you're not introducing your speakers. Like, who is this guy? A lot of the people who were outside the Khoja communities did not know me, and they were hearing me for the first time. And so they were like, who is he? Why are you not introducing him? And I was like, look, you don't need to introduce me. I want people to, if you're going to accept what I'm saying, it should be because of the strength of my evidence and my hujjah and my argument and what I'm presenting to you from the Quran and ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the transmissions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That should be the basis for you to accept or reject. Not that I have fancy degrees and so many awards and university gold medals for distinction and PhD in Arabic language and literature and distinctions in all these disciplines and testimonials from various professors. That should not be the reason for you to be overwhelmed. Don't accept what I'm saying because I'm saying it, but rather judge it against the haqq. If it agrees, then you accept it. Otherwise, reject it and throw it against the wall. So, but this time, because some of the members were implying that, there are questions about your academic credentials, I thought, okay, let me present very quickly my CV, and anyone wants to see it in detail, it can be furnished for them, inshallah ta'ala. But in any case, with that out of the way, I want to come to the research presentation, and I want to start by pointing out what inspired it. So I was reading the statement of Pramukh Saab, the president of the World Federation, when he was talking in the beginning about how on the 9th of December 2019, on the Wiladat Eve of Janab Zainab, the Jamaat gave him the opportunity to present the manifesto, and he pledged with the dua from the mu'mineen that Allah grants us the tawfiq of this very important duty as a servant of the community. One of the first things that we will do is to ensure that the aqidah that we have is strengthened and that our future generation is ready to continue in the legacy of the belief in the Tawheed as taught to us by Muhammad and Muhammad, and hence the pledge of setting up a state-of-the-art Islamic research institute. So what I really admire in this bayan is the claim and the statement that he wants to ensure that the aqidah that we have is strengthened and that our future generation is ready to continue in the legacy of the belief in Tawheed, or in the Tawheed as taught by the Muhammad wa Muhammad. So reason and revelation, intellect and revelation, mashallah, you will have heard a lot of research papers. Let us focus on this theme. This is ultimately what we wanted to have dialogue and debate about, right? What are the teachings of Muhammad and Muhammad regarding Tawheed, especially Tawheed in Ibadah? So very quickly, I don't want to take much of your time. I want to present to you my presentation, which is basically to showcase before you. And usually I like to open books and scan them and show images, which I will also do today. But because this is addressed to the lay people as well, many people who are not specialists, who are not researchers, who don't know how to access reference books and find things. So inshallah, I'm going to present my information and material in a way that everyone can access it, inshallah. So I'm going to share the screen, inshallah, and direct you to thaqalain.net. A lot of people now, mashallah, are familiar with this website. It's the Thaqalain website, and they give you a library, basically. They give you access in English to a lot of the important works of hadith from the 12-er Shi'i corpus. Okay, so these are all books of hadith. Some of them are books of Rijal, but a lot of these are books of hadith. Very quickly, I will ask the admins also to share the address of this website. Thaqalain.net is very easy to remember, but we will also request them to paste it in the description so that those who want to refer to this material after this presentation can go through it very quickly. All you have to do after you arrive at this website is come to Al-Kafi Volume 2, okay? You click on it. It will bring you to Al-Kafi Volume 2, and then you have a lot of these chapters. I want you to come to the section that's after 209, okay? So it's all numbered. You can follow the numbers until you reach 209. At the end of 209, you will see the book of supplication. Sawa, this is Kitabud Dua. And this is what we wanted to have the dialogue and discussion about. But since Pramukh Saab is saying, no, you just present it in the form of a research paper. So fine, this is my research paper, and this is all I want to present to our communities. The book of supplication from Al-Kafi, which is one of the four most authentic or authoritative books of hadith in the 12-er Shi'i corpus, right? It is considered to be one of the most authentic and authoritative. When we say it's considered to be most authentic, doesn't mean everything in it is authentic, but in terms of the ahadith in it, they are considered to be, they're given precedence because they are the earliest that we have, and they have a very special maqam and position. So I would request our viewership to read this entire chapter, Maulana. You will see exactly what Al-Islah has been saying, has been presented. And obviously, a lot of the ahadith in this bab are not considered authentic by the scholars. So that's why in this presentation, I will present exclusively what the scholars consider to be authentic. Or there is one example that I'll present to you of a hadith where scholars have reservations about authenticity, but the content is justified and it is vindicated and substantiated by that of other authentic ahadith. So this is what they would label as sahih li ghayrihi. But overall, 99% of what I'm going to be presenting is going to be ahadith that are considered authentic according to the scholars of Rijal. And the 1%, I will notify you the one hadith that I will be sharing that is not technically regarded as sahih as per the sanad. So let's start very quickly with the first hadith I want to present. This is hadith number 1, okay? So if you go to this number 1 and you click it, it will give you a list of hadith. The very first hadith is, so you click here, the excellence of prayers and the recommendation about it. And so this is hadith number 1. And this is it, right? Hadith number 1. An Abi Ja'farin alayhi salam. This is Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. He is saying, and this is Zurara reporting from him, saying, Inna Allah azza wa jal yaqul, Inna alladhina yastakbiruna an ibadati sayadkhuluna jahannama dakhirin. That Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, Abu Ja'far alayhi salam, said, Allah the most majestic, the most holy has said, those who consider themselves above the need to worship me will soon go to hell in disgrace. This is a reference to Surah 40, Surah Ghafir, or Surah Mu'min as it's called, verse 60. Sawa? So Allah is saying those people who consider themselves above the need to worship me. Now what does he mean by worship me? The Imam said, قَالَ هُوَ الدُّعَاء وَأَفْضَلُ الْعِبَادَةِ الدُّعَاء. The Imam said this is a reference to prayer, to dua, to supplication. Okay, they've translated it as prayer, but later on the translator clarifies it. He says that when he translates this part, وَأَفْضَلُ الْعِبَادَةِ الدُّعَاء, the best form of worship is prayer. And what is meant by prayer? Not salah, dua. Dua is pleading before Allah for help. So pleading before Allah for help is the best form of worship. And when Allah says those who are too arrogant to worship me will go to hell in disgrace, which worship is he referring to? The act of pleading before him across Ghayb, right? And then the narrator says, I asked the Imam what is meant by Allah's statement, Ibrahim was awwah. So the Imam said, awwah means, al-awwah huwa ad-da'a. Awwah means he was da'a. Da'a means someone who does lots and lots of dua, who is prayerful and forbearing. And the Imam said it means pleading for help before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The takeaway from this hadith is that the Imam is saying that when you do dua, when you ask your hajaat, when you plead for help, okay, across the curtain of Ghayb. So that's the difference between pleading for help from Allah and pleading for help from your fellow human beings. See, when you plead for help from your fellow human beings through natural means, it is not called dua. Okay, if let's say right now I start begging you and I start saying, please, 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 give me $10. Is anyone going to say Sayyid is doing dua to you? No. He'll say Sayyid is asking you, is begging you, is pleading you, but this is not dua. But if someone turns to Allah and says, Ya Allah, please give me $10, please give me $10, Asuche, what is this? He on your dua. Why? Why is this dua and why is my asking you through natural means for $10, for example, not dua? So Baba, simple reason. When I ask you, this is on this side of the curtain of Ghayb. There is no violation of the curtain of Ghayb. Okay, so I don't have to assume you have God-like all-hearing powers to be able to hear me. So I'm not giving you any sifat of God. When I'm asking you naturally for help, no sifat of God are being given to you. Okay, so through natural means, it is not shirk because it does not imply any transfer of sifat of Allah, like Allah's sifat of being all-hearing, all-seeing, all-knowing. When I'm pleading for help from a fellow human being, I'm not treating that person as having the sifat of Allah, of being all-hearing, all-seeing, all-knowing, right? But when you call out to a human being or a slave of Allah across the curtain of Ghayb, you are assuming that they have these powers. Now, people claim that Allah has given these powers. Well, Allah has not given these powers. There is no evidence. And to claim without evidence that Allah has given them these powers is to do Iftiraa upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But long story short, Imam is saying the best form of worship is pleading before Allah. Today in our communities, our people, they are pleading before. So if they were pleading among themselves for help, no problem. That's natural means. There is no sifat of Allah are being given to anyone. If they were doing that, we would not have any objections. There are examples of this in the Quran. The Shia of Musa alayhi salam, the person from his tribe, فَاسْتَغَاثَهُ الَّذِي مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ. He did istighatha from Musa, did he not? Yeah, so why was it okay? Because Musa was right in front of him at that time. He was physically present. So when someone is physically accessible to you through natural laws, when you plead to them for help, you do not end up giving sifat of Allah. You don't have any assumption that they have exclusive qualities and attributes of Allah, like being all-hearing and being all-seeing. But when you do this across the curtain of Ghayb, now you are assuming that they have sifat like Allah, such as they can hear all the voices. You know, as Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam in his du'as, he says, Ya Allah, you are the one who ya man la yushghiluhu sam'un an sam'in. Ya Allah, this is your glory and your greatness and your majesty, that listening to one dua does not divert you from listening to another. Millions and billions of du'as are being directed to you at the same time, and listening to one does not divert you from listening to the other. This is your majesty and your glory. And Allah testifies to this himself in the Quran in Surah Al-Rahman. Do you not read Allah? He says that يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. Everyone and everything in the heavens and the earth, whatever is in the heavens and the earth, whoever is in the heavens and the earth, they do su'al, they ask their hajaat from him. They seek from his grace and his bounty. كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. Every single day new manifestations of his glory appear and manifest themselves. Yani in the form of him responding to these supplications that are being made to him from the heavens and the earth. He responds to them. He gives someone life, he gives someone rizq, he gives someone progeny, offspring, different things he's distributing every day. That's his sha'n, that's his glory. Unfortunately, in our communities, people are giving this sha'n to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, and they're saying, no, they should also be invoked side by side with Allah, together with Allah, other than Allah. We should also make dua to them. So Baba, Imam Baqir alayhi salam in the hadith that I just shared is testifying that dua suche, asking your hajaat across Ghayb is what we call dua. Please do not be under any confusion. Dua is only dua if it is across the curtain of Ghayb, then it is worship. If dua is on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, it is not worship. Dalil is in the Quran itself. Allah says, لا تجعلوا دعاء الرسول كدعاء بعضكم بعضا. Do not treat the dua of the messenger, yani this is linguistic dua, when the Prophet physically calls you. Like let's say he's in the masjid, Sahaba are there, he calls one Sahabi, come here. This is also dua, but this is linguistic dua and it is not worship. Why? Because it's through natural means of communication, right? So when the Prophet is calling a Sahabi and saying, come here, he's not giving him all hearing powers, right? Because the Sahabi is right there in front of him. So that is not shirk. It is not shirk and it is not ghulu when you seek help on this side of the curtain of Ghayb and you don't breach the curtain of Ghayb. But when I say, Ya Allah, please help me, this is dua across Ghayb. Because Allah is not physically in this realm, right? He's separated from us by the curtain of Ghayb. Yet, we call out to him, we supplicate to him because of our belief that he's all hearing, all knowing, all seeing, and that he can listen to everything beyond the curtain of Ghayb. He is not limited by these barriers of Ghayb, whereas his slaves are limited by these barriers. So in any case, the point of the hadith of Imam Baqir alayhi salam is to show us that dua je che na, ibadat che. Allah ni nazdik, in the eyes of Allah, it is ibadah. And so, Amari communities masood hai che, what's happening? People are doing, literally they are asking hajaat, and they're asking their du'as from imams. And they're doing it across Ghayb. If Imam was physically present here and you said, yeah, Imam, please give me 10 dirhams, this is not shirk. But across Ghayb, when he has gone back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we believe he's alive over there. Those of our imams who are shuhada, they are alive with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ بَتْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. They are receiving rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah doesn't say they are alive and they are now giving you rizq. No, they are themselves still muhtaj of Allah. And they are receiving rizq and sustenance from Allah. But وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ, as Allah says in the other place. They are beyond your perception. So you cannot contact them. You cannot reach them. You cannot perceive them. You don't know anything about them. They have been separated from you. Why is it وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ? Why are they outside the scope of our shu'ur? Because curtain of Ghayb has come between us. And this curtain of Ghayb prevents them from interacting with us or listening to our prayers and supplications. It's as simple as that. So now that they have gone on that side of the curtain of Ghayb, when you do dua to them, you are assuming that they have all hearing powers like Allah. If you say Allah has given them those all hearing powers, this is Iftiraa upon Allah, because Allah denies in the Quran in Surah Fatir, Allah says, In tad'uhum la yasma'u du'akum. any entity, speaking of entities lesser than him, he says, whichever entity lesser than me, you call out to it across the curtain of Ghayb, it will not listen to you. Haiwezi kusikia. وَلَوْ سَمِعُوا مَا اسْتَجَابُوا لَكُمْ. Allah says, hypothetically, even if they could hear you, they would not be able to respond. In Surah Al-Ahqaf, he says, وَهُمْ عَنْ دُعَائِهِمْ غَافِلُونَ. All those entities you are invoking lesser than me, across Ghayb, they are ghafil. They don't even know you are calling out to them. And وَإِذَا حُشِرَ النَّاسُ كَانُوا لَهُمْ أَعْدَاءً وَكَانُوا بِعِبَادَتِهِمْ كَافِرِينَ. On the Day of Judgment, when the human beings will be resurrected, these very entities will reject your worship. كَانُوا بِعِبَادَتِهِمْ كَافِرِينَ. So dua, what we are trying to establish from the hadith of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, dua, as he says, let me share the screen again. Dua is worship. And it's not just worship, it is the best form of worship, is to plead before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our problem with what's popular within our communities, 12 Shia communities, is that this best form of worship, which is pleading across the curtain of Ghayb, is instead of directing it to Allah, or together with directing it to Allah, you are also directing it to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, and this is Shirk fil Ibadah. Okay, this kind of dua then becomes Shirk fil Ibadah, because it's not a linguistic dua, it's not just a natural call, it is a supernatural call that you're trying to make across the curtain of Ghayb. So the Imam says, dua in this verse of the Quran, Surah 40, verse 60, means pleading for help before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was hadith number 1. And basically, if at this point, I don't know how much time there is at the conference, but yeah, if you've listened up to this point, you can basically tune out, because what I will be presenting is more of this. For those who are interested. Hadith number 2. And by the way, this hadith has been authenticated, as I've mentioned. Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi classifies it as Hasan ka-Sahih, so it's reliable according to him. But Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi is akhbari, and his rijal system is not very advanced, right? So what will please you to know is that this hadith has also been authenticated by Al-Allama al-Shaykh Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi, who is Usuli scholar, in his Sahih al-Kafi. This is Sahih al-Kafi. If I can, by Al-Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi. This is Kitab al-Du'a. You can see the very first hadith. The Imam mentions the ayah, huwa ad-du'a wa afdalul ibadati ad-du'a. So this is also there, authenticated by Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi in Sahih al-Kafi. And you can go and ask any well-versed scholar of Rijal. He will tell you this hadith is Sahih. And if it is Sahih, it proves that what is going on in our communities, when people are saying they are directly pleading for help with Imam Ali through Ya Ali Madad, for example, or Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni, everyone accepts that Imam Zaman is behind the curtain of Ghayb, right? The Zuhur has still not happened. So when he's behind the curtain of Ghayb, there is no natural means with which you can access him. So for you to call out to him across the curtain of Ghayb, this is also, you are giving him sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're claiming that he can hear you, then you're claiming he's all hearing, right? So this is all Shirk fil Ibadah. And this is what the Imams are saying should be reserved for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the best act of worship. And because this kind of dua and talabul hajat is best act of worship, reserve it for Allah. Don't do it to Ghayrallah. If you do it to Ghayrallah, you have made that Ghayrallah a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this best act of worship. Very quickly, we go to hadith number 2. Again, قُلْتُ لِأَبِي جَعْفَرَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ أَيُّ الْعِبَادَةِ أَفْضَلُ. So you have a man asking Imam Abu Ja'far alayhi salam, a companion asking him which form of worship is better. The Imam said, there is nothing more excellent before Allah, the most majestic, the most holy, than to ask and request him to grant one from things he owns. Right? Min an yus'ala wa yutlab mimma indah. Yani you ask Allah for the things that he owns. What does Allah own? Allah owns everything, whether it's life, rizq, rain, offspring, whatever you want, Allah owns it. Allah is maliku kulli shay, right? He owns everything. So he's saying there is nothing more excellent before Allah than to ask and request him across the curtain of Ghayb because Allah is not physically on our side of the curtain of Ghayb. But across the curtain of Ghayb, we request Him to grant us the things that He owns. So, su'al and talabul hajat is the best. And He says there is nothing worse in the sight of Allah. Allah does not hate anything more than the one who feels too arrogant or who feels himself greater than to be in need of asking Allah for help. Thus, He does not ask Him for help. And this is what's happening when you devote yourself to asking help from Imams. It's all the time, Ya Ali Madad instead of Ya Allah Madad. Then what are you doing? You're not asking Allah for help. Right? And this is something that's very hateful in the eyes of Allah. You say, okay, let's ask both. Let's ask Allah for help, but also Imam Ali for help. Say, no. Allah has forbidden this in Surah Al-Jinn. He tells you, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. Not only does He not want you to invoke entities other than Him, He also does not want you to invoke and supplicate across the curtain of Ghayb to entities together with Him. That is also haram according to the Quran. So the teaching of Ahlul Bayt is clear. Allah loves for you to ask Him. There is no act of worship that is higher than asking Allah for your Hajaat, the Imam is saying. Okay. ما من شيء أفضل عند الله من أن يسأل ويطلب مما عنده. अल्लाह ताला की नजर में इससे ज्यादा बेहतर कोई चीज नहीं है कि उससे सवाल किया जाए और हाजतें तलब की जाए, उसके जो खजाने हैं उसमें से मांगा जाए. Allah loves it. Allah loves this. When Allah loves for you to ask your hajat from Him, why are you going to others? When Allah loves for you to ask Him, not anyone else. Look at the translation, and I will share all the links. Every hadith I'm sharing, you will find it in the description, Maulana. Whether on your Android, your mobile phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever, you can read this hadith yourself. We are providing you with the resources that you can access yourself. Otherwise, it was easy for me. I could open the books and just show you the books, but these books you don't have access to. So I'm giving you a website that everyone has access to. Sawa? Can we go now to hadith number 3? Okay, I hope you have understood this part, that Allah does not hate. He hates no one more than the one who feels himself greater than to be in need of asking for Allah for help. Now, in our communities, alhamdulillah, it's not that they feel themselves greater than that. They feel themselves lower. They say, ekla gunegar che, we are such sinners. How can we ask Allah for help? So we ask Ahlul Bayt. Say, Baba, what are the Ahlul Bayt? Is Imam Abu Jafar al-Baqir alayhi salam not from the Ahlul Bayt? However, Joe, what he's teaching you? He's teaching you, he's being asked, which form of worship is better? He says, there is nothing more excellent before Allah, the most majestic, the most holy, than to ask and request Him, Him with capital H. Not to ask and request Ahlul Bayt, but to ask Him to grant one from things He owns. And He owns everything basically. So whatever hajat you ask, Allah owns them. Imam is saying the best act of worship is ask your hajat from Allah. Baba, when Ahlul Bayt have guided you to the best act of worship, why are you going for shirk? Why are you going for ghulu? Why are you going for something that Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam in their authentic? This is, remember, Allama Mohammad Baqir al-Majlisi has authenticated it. Maulana, you come to Al-Kafi, Sahih Al-Kafi, by Al-Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi. As you can see, he has also authenticated this. Ma min shay'in. Okay, let me enlarge the font so all of you can see. This is Sahih Al-Kafi. ما من شيء أفضل عند الله عز وجل من أن يسأل ويطلب ما عنده وما أحد أبغض إلى الله ممن يستكبر عن عبادته ولا يسأل ما عنده. So Ibadah is su'al. Su'al, when you do su'al and ask your needs from Allah, Allah considers that Ibadah. Okay, when you ask your needs from Imams across the curtain of Ghayb, you are doing Ibadah of those Imams. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And this is what we are trying to warn against. And basically, it's going to be tedious for me to constantly juggle between the website and Sahih al-Kafi, but those of you, the scholars have Sahih al-Kafi, I imagine. So you can go and ask any scholar who has this book. He will confirm every hadith I'm going to be presenting after this, except the one that I point out will be mentioned in Sahih al-Kafi. It's authenticated. I mentioned Sahih al-Kafi by Allama Bahbudi because the manhaj is similar to that of Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani. So those of you who are muqallideen of Sayyid Sistani can know that whatever he's authenticating is also authentic as per Sayyid Sistani, because he follows the same manhaj of giving precedence to the testimonies of the classical rijalists. Okay, let's go back to the website that everyone can access. Sawa? This was hadith number 2. Now go to hadith number 3. This is also classified as Sahih by Allama Majlisi, and it's also labeled Sahih as Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi. You have Abu Abdullah al-Sadiq alayhi salam saying, Ya Muyassir, ud'u wa la taqul inna al-amra qad furiga minhu. Inna 'inda Allahi 'azza wa jalla manzilatan la tunalu illa bimas'alatin. ولو أن عبدا سد فاه ولم يسأل لم يعط شيئا فسل تعطى يا ميسر إنه ليس من باب يقرأ إلا يوشك أن يفتح لصاحبه. Abu Abdullah Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, O Muyassir, pray, yani do dua, and do not say that that it is predetermined and it is all over. Yani the Imam is saying sometimes people think, if Allah there's qada and qadar, right? Allah has determined things in advance. How long you will live, how much rizq you will get, right? So people say when Allah has determined everything, when He has decided everything, then what dua shamate karu, right? Kwanini, I should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then if everything is predetermined. The Imam says, no, this is wrong mentality. You should do lots and lots of dua, regardless of what Allah has predetermined. You don't worry about that. Your job is to make dua. Later on, you will see in narrations, he talks about how your dua can actually change the qada. That's why you should do dua. And then he says there is a position with Allah, the Majestic, the Glorious, that is not accessible without praying to Him. Yani there are maqamat in the eyes of Allah that you cannot gain unless you make dua. And then he says, if you keep your mouth closed and you don't plead with Allah to receive help from Him, you will not receive anything. O Muyassir, there is no door that is knocked repeatedly, but that sooner or later it will open up. So he says, even if Allah doesn't respond to your dua the first time, keep on knocking His door, keep on going to His door. But again, you can see in this authentic hadith, the Imam is saying that, look, there are manazil and there are stations that you will never reach unless you make lots and lots of dua. So the more du'as you make to Allah, the higher stations you will reach. Notice again, the Imam is not teaching you to make dua to him or to his forefathers or to anyone. Dua in the authentic teachings is always directed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then, Maulana, we can come to hadith number 5. And I think this was 3. 4 I'm skipping because it has been labeled da'if by the scholars of Rijal. So we come to 5, which has been authenticated by Allama Majlisi and also Al-Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi. Again, same thing from Abu Abdullah as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Okay, he's saying, Ud'u. Ud'u is command. Make lots and lots of du'as, he's saying. And do not say that, because of belief in predetermination, that everything is determined and the matter is settled. So what's the point in making dua to Allah? The Imam says, no. Even if something has been predetermined by Allah, you should still pray to Allah because dua is worshipping Allah. So do you see? When you ask your Hajaat across the curtain of Ghayb, remember, for asking Hajaat to be Ibadah, it has to be across curtain of Ghayb. If on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, you ask Haja from someone through natural means, that is not Ibadah. Okay, that is just natural asking for help. Asking for help becomes Ibadah when it's across the curtain of Ghayb. That's when it's something, because your calls across the curtain of Ghayb can only be accessed by the one who is all hearing. And the all-hearing Zat is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sawa? So that kind of dua across curtain of Ghayb is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most majestic, the most holy. And Allah has said, those who consider themselves above the need to worship me will soon go to hell in disgrace. And He has said, pray to me, ud'uni astajib lakum, make dua to me, I will accept your du'as. First part of the above verse. Sawa? He has given references to the Quran. You can see the Ahlul Bayt, they always speak in line with the Quran. Again, authenticated hadith. This is hadith number 5. Hadith number 6, also authenticated by the scholars of Rijal. Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi says Sahih. Shaykh Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi, Al-Allama, also says the same thing. So this is from Abu Abdullah as-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, you must plead before Allah for help. Notice how in all the ahadith, Imams are not saying you must plead before Imam Ali for help and say, Ya Ali madad. Saying, no. Look at the Arabic. Alaykum bid-du'a. You are supposed to do dua, and dua is pleading before Allah for help. Okay. فَإِنَّكُمْ لَا تَقَرَّبُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ يعني أصله لَا تَتَقَرَّبُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ. Why should you do lots and lots of dua? Why should you plead before Allah for help? He says, because you cannot seek nearness to Allah. Okay. People talk about wasila. وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ. We want to seek nearness to Allah. Imam is talking about wasila. You want nearness? The Imam is saying you cannot seek nearness to Allah by any means better than pleading before Him for help. إِنَّكُمْ لَا تَتَقَرَّبُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ أي بِمِثْلِ الدُّعَاء. So dua to Allah is the best wasila. And today, what are they teaching you? They're saying, no, best wasila is tame dua karo. You ask your Hajaat from Ahlul Bayt, from Sahib al-Zaman, from Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. You ask your Hajaat from them. This is the best wasila and tawassul. Baba, you want to listen to them, or you want to listen to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt? Abu Abdullah Sadiq alayhi salam, Sadiq Ali Muhammad is teaching you what? You must plead before Allah for help. And this is the main crime that we have been accused of. This is what they accuse us of, being Wahhabis and Salafis and I don't know, enemies of Ahlul Bayt, for promoting their authentic teachings, which have been, even Akhbari, whose Rijal is not very strong, but even he is forced to classify it as Sahih, as authentic. And if you come to Al-Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi, you will see the same thing. He is classifying it as Sahih. Here, alaykum bid-du'a fa innakum la taqarrabuna bimithli. Same hadith which I shared above. Sawa? So the Imam is saying the best means by which you can seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, you cannot seek nearness to Allah by any means better than pleading before Him directly for help. Because he's saying dua to Allah. In the eyes of the Ahlul Bayt, dua is only towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sawa? As you can see, you cannot seek nearness to Allah by any means better than pleading before Him. Him with the capital H, for help. And then he's saying, do not leave your small needs. So sometimes you might say, well, I have such a small haja, why bother Allah for it? This one I can ask Bibi Sakina or Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas because it's small haja. Imam is saying, no, do not leave your small needs without pleading before Allah for help. Just because they are small, because both small and large needs are in the hands of one and the same one. Yani, moti hajat che ke small hajat che, all hajat are in the hands of one. Okay, inna sahib al-sigar huwa sahib al-kibar. Badi hajate, whether they are big, badi hajate, choti hajate, doesn't matter. They are all in the hands of one. This is the teaching of Ahlul Bayt. They're not telling you to supplicate to Imams or to awliya or to prophets. They're teaching you to supplicate to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are their authentic teachings. And you can see how they are backing what they're saying with the Quran. I now come to, look, if as I said, this presentation can go on and on. I have so many ahadiths to share. If at any point you feel like tuning out, you can tune out. But if you want to listen to more ahadith of Ahlul Bayt, you can stay tuned and I will present more. Ultimately, I think even this much is enough, to be honest. But tabarrukan, and because we are, these are teachings of Ahlul Bayt, so as lovers and Shia of Ahlul Bayt, their words should not be heavy on our ears, right? We should have tolerance and we should be willing to listen to more. Fazali, it's better than presenting scholarly researches where they're sharing you their own theories and ideas. Here, at least, we're sharing direct statements of Ahlul Bayt. So if you can listen to long research papers, you can surely listen to this as well. Abu Abdullah Sadiq alayhi salam. This is hadith number 7. Yeah, this is the one Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi has labeled as majhul and mursal. Okay, so this is the one hadith that is da'if. We don't need it. And Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi also has not included it in Sahih al-Kafi, but the content matches the ahadith that we presented before. So this is what traditional scholars of Rijal would usuli ones especially, would classify as Sahih li ghayriha. They would say it's authentic because its content is verified by other authentic narrations, right? So ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. This is Imam Abu Abdullah alayhi salam saying du'a huwa al-ibadah. Du'a is worship. And which du'a? When it's across the curtain of Ghayb, the way that you do du'a to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is that worship? Because it's across Ghayb. If it's on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, it's not worship. So if I call you and say, Ya Ahmad, Ya Hussein, Ya Ali, help me, and I'm referring to someone in my immediate vicinity and proximity or through natural means, that is not worship, because I'm not giving all hearing powers to that entity. But when you give all hearing powers, when you make dua across the curtain of Ghayb with the belief and iman and i'tiqad and aqidah that the entity across the curtain of Ghayb has all hearing powers, through which they can listen to your prayer, and they have power over the whole universe such that they can actually grant you what you're asking, then this is ibadah. And ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. And then he quotes the verse of the Quran, Inna alladhina yastakbiruna an ibadati. He says, look, this is the ibadah that Allah is talking about in that verse. And then again, ud'u Allah azza wa jalla. The Imam is saying, look, do dua to Allah. وَلَا تَقُلْ إِنَّ الْأَمْرَ قَدْ فُرِغَ مِنْهُ. And don't say that, oh, Allah has decided everything in His qada and qadar, so what should I ask for? So basically, and then Zurara explains, he says, what Imam is trying to say is that because you have iman in qada and qadar, and you believe that Allah has predetermined a lot of the things, this does not mean that you should not make lots and lots of dua, because your dua can actually change the qada, number one. And number two, even if your dua is not going to change the qada of Allah, still your dua is an act of worship. And وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah created you for worship. So it is your job to do dua, regardless of whether it is accepted, not accepted, whether the qada of Allah gets changed as a result of it or not, doesn't matter. You have to do your worship. Okay, just like salah, you have to pray, yeah? Whether Allah gives you, let's say you want a car, and Allah did not give it to you. So are you going to say that, okay, from today I will not pray salah because Allah did not give me my car? Baba, whether Allah gives you what you want or He doesn't give you for some maslahah, the worship has to go on. So dua is worship. The Imam is saying, don't worry about qada and qadar and what is decided. What you just keep on doing dua and dua and dua. Never stop doing dua from Allah under any circumstance. Then this is the bab. Now, some of you might be saying, well, okay, dua. So does talabul hajaat come under this? Because some people will say, okay, we are not doing dua to imams, but we are asking them for our hajat. Baba, asking hajat across the curtain of Ghayb is exactly what the imams call dua. And the proof of this is in this next chapter. It's not immediately next, it's further down the line. It's called praising Allah before praying and pleading for help. So in this you will see that Abu Abdullah Sadiq alayhi salam says, إِيَّاكُمْ إِذَا أَرَادَ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَسْأَلَ مِنْ رَبِّهِ شَيْئًا مِنْ حَوَائِجِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ حَتَّى يَبْدَأ بِالثَّنَاءِ عَلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَالْمَدْحِ لَهُ وَالصَّلَاةِ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ صلى الله عليه وآله ثُمَّ يَسْأَلُ اللَّهِ حَوَائِجَهُ. The Imam says, you must bear in mind that whenever one of you likes to ask his Lord for help in worldly matters or for the next life, you want Jannah, you want Hurul Ain, you want whatever, he says he must begin with praise of Allah, the most majestic, the most holy. Then he must thank Him and then ask His favors and salawat for the Holy Prophet. And then ثُمَّ يَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ حَوَائِجَهُ. Then ask Allah for His hajat. So do you see, يَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ حَوَائِجَهُ. So when it comes to the Prophet, it's not that we are completely supposed to ignore the Prophet. No. When we are asking for hajat, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt always teach us. They say you should send salat on Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Okay, sallu ala nabi. Do send salawat on Muhammad and Al Muhammad. But after sending salawat, after praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower His mercy and His salutations and His peace on Muhammad and Al Muhammad, then yas'alullaha hawaijahu. Then you ask Allah for your hajat. Okay. So who do you pray to? So there are two things. Praying to and praying for. Sawa. Ahlul Bayt are saying, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is saying, the Nabi, the Prophet, you are supposed to as-salat ala nabi. You are supposed to pray for him. You are supposed to invoke the salutations of Allah on him. So, Nabi mate tame dua karo છો. Not ke tame Nabi si Nabi na sate dua mango, you start directing your dua to the Nabi. No. Nabi and Alun Nabi, you send salawat and salam on them, and your hawaij, the Imam says, yas'alullah. Notice how Imam is not teaching you to ask your, he doesn't say, summa yas'alun nabi hawaijahu, then you should ask the Nabi for your hawaij. Papa, the job of the Nabi is not to fulfill your hajat. That is Allah's department. So you can see this is all Al-Kafi, 12-word traditional Shia ahadith, authenticated by Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi, the Akhbari, and also authenticated by the Usuli al-Allama Muhammad Baqir al-Bahbudi. And at your conference, you have many scholars. Go and ask any scholar who is well versed in Rijal. He will authenticate these narrations. These are all authentic narrations from the Ahlul Bayt telling us, Baba, dua, su'al, your hajat, ask from Allah. So how do we express our love for Nabi and Ale Nabi? He says, As-salat ala nabi. We recite salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Wa barik ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Warham Muhammadan wa ala Muhammad. وسلم على محمد وآل محمد وترحم على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. You're welcome to do that. Then you have hadith number 2. This is Imam Abu Abdullah As-Sadiq alayhi salam from the same Baba. He says in the Kitab of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it was written. So Amir al-Mu'mineen had actually written a book that the Imams had access to. And in this book, Amir al-Mu'mineen had written advice for his followers, Innal midhata qabla al-mas'ala. Okay? Whenever you like to pray and plead before Allah, the most majestic, the most holy, for help, speak of His glory. Yani you are supposed to glorify Allah first. Chare hajat mangwani hoye. Okay, when you want to ask hajat, you don't just start, you say, Ya Allah, give me this, give me this. No. First, you do hamd and thana, you praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can see the Imams of Ahlul Bayt in their authentic teachings, they're teaching you how to ask your hajat. First of all, you start with midha, you praise Allah. قبل المسألة. فإذا دعوت الله عز وجل فمجده. The Imam says, so when you supplicate to Allah and you plead with Allah, you are supposed to speak of His glory. You're supposed to glorify Him, do tasbih, majidhu, mention His, Asma'ul Husna, His beautiful sifat. And then the narrator says, I asked the Imam, how should we speak of His glory? The Imam then says, okay, I can teach you words that you can say before your dua. How can you speak of Allah's glory? He says you can speak of His glory by addressing Allah with these words. Ya man huwa aqrabu ilayya min hablil warid. O you who are closer to me than my jugular vein. See, Imam is teaching us the same thing that the Quran is teaching us. That Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. You don't need any extra wasila to come to someone, to some entity that's already closer to you from your jugular vein. You don't need to, go zigzag. He's already closer to you than your jugular vein. And the Imam is teaching, he's saying, say, he's telling the Shias, say, qul. So the Imam is teaching you how to supplicate to Allah. And still you want to come and say that, no, I'm not going to supplicate to Allah the way the Imam taught me. Rather, I'm going to supplicate to the Imam instead. So ye zulm aur zyadti nahi hai, to kya hai? So the Imam says, say, O you who are closer to me than my jugular vein, O the one who does without fail as he wishes, O the one who stands between a man and his heart, O the one who is on a high position and the one like whom is no creature. So these are all Asma'ul Husna or Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which showcase His greatness. And the Imam is saying you mention His greatness and you call Him with these great and lofty names of His. And that's the meaning of starting your dua by glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You mention His Asma'ul Husna, which showcase His majesty, His greatness. But the point to focus here is that when it comes to mas'ala, when it comes to su'al, asking, talabul hajat, and this is all in Kitabud Dua of Al-Kafi, what is the Imam teaching you? He's teaching you to call upon Allah, not to call upon Him and His forefathers, wal-'iyadu billah. And he's saying, one like whom there is no creature. If you are going to say, no, these du'as and this supplication across Ghayb can also take place with Imams and they can also supernaturally hear us because Allah has given them all hearing powers, then you are making them a likeness for Allah. And the Imam is saying, no one is like Allah. Sawa? All of these ahadiths, we can give lectures on just, single ahadith like this. I don't know how much more time I have left. If I was at the actual conference, I guess the Mukkis would have stopped me by now. But khair, Al-Islah admins are much more generous, so I will take advantage. See, I'm not presenting anything from my pocket. These are hadith of Ahlul Bayt. You can go and read them yourself. If you don't like my voice and you don't like to listen from me, go and read yourself. Otherwise, I'm happy to recite for you. These are authentic. Hadith number 6, authenticated Sahih according to Al-Allama Mohammad Baqir al-Majlisi, also authenticated by Al-Allama Mohammad Baqir al-Bihbudi. إِذَا طَلَبَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْحَاجَةِ. Here Imam is saying, Hajat chene, you want something really badly. What do you do? Okay. Whenever any one of you wishes to ask for help, he should praise his Lord and thank Him. Notice how he's not teaching you that whenever any one of you wishes to ask help, call our grandfather, say, Ya Ali Madad, or call the Imam of your time, Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni, or Ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas, or none of that, Ya Akhi. This is completely against the authentic teaching of our Imams. Our authentic Imams, our Imams in their authentic teachings, they only teach you what Allah is teaching you in the Quran. That's why they said compare any narration against the Quran. Look at the du'as of the Prophets in the Quran and look at what the Imams are teaching you, and then tell me if there is any difference. Whenever any one of you wishes to ask for help, he should praise his Lord and thank him. When a man wants to ask a king for something, he prepares to say the best words that he can, right? So the Imam is saying, now when you are asking dua, you are asking the King of Kings, right? So when you like to ask for help, speak of the glory of Allah. First mention hamd and thana, mention his asma'ul husna, his beautiful names, mention his glory, his greatness, his power, his wisdom. Express your humility before him by acknowledging his greatness and his power over you. Okay? Then thank him for his favors. Then praise him by saying, oh, the most generous in granting favors and the best to be asked for help. Who is the best to be asked for help? According to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, this is Abu Abdullah, not Syed Ali Hur. Syed Ali Hur is just reading what Imam Abu Abdullah is saying. Who is the best to be asked for help? He's saying the most generous one. And who is the most generous one? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the best to be asked for help. Not Imam Ali alayhi salam across the curtain of Ghayb, not Abul Fadl al-Abbas, not Sahib al-Zaman, not any entity other than Allah. The best to be asked for help is Allah. And what are these traditional people teaching you? That you bypass the best entity that the Imams are promoting as the best entity that you can seek help from. They're saying, no, you ask Imams. Baba, Imams themselves are saying best entity is Allah. We are giving you the best solution. And you atastabdiluna alladhi huwa adna billadhi huwa khayr. We are giving you the best, the Imams are saying. They're giving you the best, and you are going for invented mechanisms that the ghulat came up with. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Oh, the most kind to those who ask for kindness. Oh, the one and self-sufficient. Oh, the one who has no children and is not born from anyone, and there is no one as his partner. Oh, the one who has no companion and children. Oh, the one who does as he wishes, commands as he wills, and judges as he loves. Oh, the one who stands between a man and his heart. Oh, the one who is in a high position. Oh, the one whose likeness there is no creature. All of these names of Allah, my friend. All of this, they're teaching you what? To ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at this other hadith. This hadith number 6. Hadith number 5. Again, this is beautiful dua from Abu Abdullah Sadiq alayhi salam. I presented it before. This is also Imam Hussein's dua in Karbala. It's attributed to him as well. Look at what the Imam says. Oh, he says, Allahumma anta thiqati fi kulli kurba wa anta raja'i fi kulli shidda wa anta li fi kulli amrin nazala bi thiqatu wa udda. Oh my Lord, oh Allah, you are my trustee in every distressful condition. The translator, Kidogo, this is not the most accurate. Allahumma anta thiqati. Thiqati is someone whom you place your trust in. Okay, in English, trustees, board of trustees. I think people will associate wrong concept with trustee. Allah is not our trustee in that sense. What the Imam means to say thiqati is thiqa means confidence. He says, whenever I'm in trouble, there is only one entity that I have my full confidence in. Who is that? My grandfather Ali, or my grandfather Imam Hussein, or Uncle Abul Fadl al-Abbas? No. It is, oh Lord, the one whom you consider your Lord is the one who should be the one you rely on in every distressful condition. Musibat avi jaye, when you are in distressful condition, the Imam is teaching you what? Not to call upon Imam Ali or Sahib al-Zaman or Abul Fadl al-Abbas, salawatullahi alayhim ajma'in. No, he's saying you are supposed to call upon your Lord and say, you are my trustee in every distressful condition. And the Imam is teaching it to his Shia, to his followers, that you are supposed to call upon Allah and say, you are the one whom I trust in every distress. You are my hope in all suffering. You are for me in all of my problems. Who is there for me? You, Ya Allah. You are my trustee and my resource. Again, he has translated as trustee, but what the actual, Arabic says, وَأَنْتَ لِي فِي كُلِّ أَمْرٍ نَزَلَ بِي ثِقَةٌ وَعُدَّةٌ. Ya Allah, jo bhi musibat nazil hoti hai mere upar. Whatever musibah, calamity, affliction comes down, you are the one that I place my trust in, and you are the one I rely in, not anyone else. Okay, then he talks about his own personal life. How many were the distressful conditions wherein which the heart gets weakened? Sometimes musibah comes in your life, your heart becomes weak. Your patience runs thin. People near you start abandoning you. Enemies start rejoicing. All possible solutions are exhausted. And he says, Ya Allah, after I lost hope in everything, you assisted me in the matters that I had brought before you and complained about them to you, turning away from everyone besides you. And everyone besides you includes all the pious slaves of Allah across the pattern of life, whether it is Imam Ali alayhi salam, whether it is Abul Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, whether it is Sahib al-Zaman, whether it is anyone. Imam is saying, whenever problems come in my life, I turn away, and I'm teaching my Shia, you should also turn away from everyone besides Allah. And then what will happen? When you turn only to Allah, Allah will change your musibah into happiness. He will remove the hardship and He will suffice you in it. So he says, Ya Allah, you are the patron of all blessings. You are the provider of all help, the end of all interests. Muntaha kulli raghbaya, which means, Ya Allah, jitni bhi raghbate hain. Raghba means everything that you desire. Muntaha means the end point. So he says, every desire, the end point is who? Allah. Yani at the end, it reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore you should only be seeking from Him, because ultimately He is muntaha kulli raghba. He is the limit of all desires. He is the end of all interests, they have translated. All praise belongs to you, a great deal, and thanks to you in addition. This is the teaching of our blessed and beloved Imams. Maulana, these are just selected ahadith which I presented from Al-Kafi. All of the ahadith I presented, except for the one that I highlighted, has been discredited by Allama Majlisi. That is also Sahih li Ghayriha. All of these ahadith, Maulana, these are ahadith of our beloved Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam. And in all of them, conclusion is what? That first of all, our Imams teach us to do dua to Allah. In a state of distress, you are supposed to do dua to who? To Allah, not to the Imams. Allah also teaches you the same thing in the Quran. In Surah An-Naml, famous verse, Amma yujibu. How many times have we repeated this on Al-Islah videos? That Amma yujibu al-muzdarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'a wa yaj'alukum khulafa al-ardi a'ilahum ma'allah qalilan ma tadhakkarun. Allah says, who is there? You tell me, Amma yujibu. Who is it who responds to the call and the supplication of the muzdar, of the distressed, when he calls out to him, إِذَا دَعَاهُ, when he does dua to him, وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوء, and he wards off and removes the evil. Who is it? أَإِلَهُمْ Allah, is there an ilah together with me? Yani in other words, if you are saying, yes, Imam Ali can also do this, then in the eyes of Allah, you are claiming uluhiyah for him. You are saying that, yes, there is a ilah together with Allah. So that's why, my dear brothers and sisters, Imams of Ahlul Bayt, their authentic teachings are very clear. Dua is exclusively for Allah. Whenever you are in trouble, distress, musibah, calamity, whatever, only ask Allah for help, because our Imams only ever asked Allah for help. Whatever narrations that they bring you, which contradict these authentic teachings and Allah's commands in the Quran, are fabrications of ghulat. Many of them have been discredited by the scholars of Rijal themselves, as we have previously demonstrated in Al-Islah lectures. Beyond this, I don't have anything more to say, except to once again applaud the President Saab. He said it is our responsibility, and he mentioned how it is his dream and it is his duty that he wants that our future generation should be ready to continue in the legacy of the belief in the Tawheed as taught to us by Muhammad al-Muhammad. This research presentation that I presented, this is the Tawheed of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. They say Tawheed in Ibadah means dua ne talabul Hajaat ne sawal. Seeking anything you want to seek across Ghayb, only seek it from Allah. On this side of the curtain of Ghayb, you can seek it from whomsoever you like through natural means. It's not called dua then. Okay? And simple experiment you can do with any traditional scholar. Go to him, say, please, Naomba, give me pen. Okay? You plead him, tell him, I beg you, give me a pen, or give me $10. And then ask him, I was asking you for $10. Do you classify this as dua? He will say no. Why is it not dua? So it's not an act of worship. Why is it not an act of worship? So, Baba, because I'm asking you through natural means. It's not like you are across the curtain of Ghayb. There is no element of worship here. Tayyib. If I say, Ya Allah, grant me a pen, or grant me offspring, or grant me $10. What is this when I say, Ya Allah, Allahumma give me? Yeah, they will say this is dua. When I ask you, it is not dua. When I ask you on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, it is not dua. When I ask Allah across the curtain of Ghayb, it is suddenly dua. So yeah, this is the definition of dua. When it's across the curtain of Ghayb, it's dua. When it's on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, it is not dua. So, and proof is, when I ask Allah, it is dua, because it's across the curtain of Ghayb. And the problem with all the people that the Quran condemns is that they were asking entities across the curtain of Ghayb, other than Allah. And that is what Allah forbids you. All the verses in the Quran that say, don't do dua to Ghayrallah, they are referring to Ghayrallah across the curtain of Ghayb. Otherwise, on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, even awliya of Allah are not above asking each other. Allah shows you follower of Musa asking his help, doing istighatha from him, the Prophet calling his Sahaba and seeking help from them. No problem with that. The problem is when you direct your Hajaat to entities across Ghayb, the way you do for Allah, you start doing to Imams who have left this world and gone back to Allah. They are alive with Allah, but still they are inaccessible to you. They are veiled by the curtain of Ghayb. So when you try to reach out to them, he on your dua. And this dua is considered Ibadah by Allah, which Allah wants you to reserve exclusively for Him. And that's why He teaches you in Al-Fatiha to say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Only you do we worship, and only you do we seek help from across the curtain of Ghayb. Because on this side of the curtain of Ghayb, we are seeking help from everyone. Even I, how many times do you see me asking help from Al-Islah admins? Please put that link, please share this in the description. This is all seeking help, but it's through natural means. I'm not assuming that Al-Islah admins are all hearing Alimul Ghayb entities, that they will access whatever I'm saying, no matter how I say it. No, through natural means, I have to reach out to them. So inshallah, if this is understood, you have understood basically the main issue that we have with the popular ghulu-based practice. So all we can do is in the end pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this vision that Pramukh Sahib has, that our youths, our future generation continues in the legacy of the belief in the Tawheed as taught to us by Muhammad and Muhammad, and hence the pledge of setting up a state-of-the-art Islamic research center. Well, if you want Tawheed of Ahlul Bayt, you don't even need that state-of-the-art center. Just this one bab from Al-Kafi that I presented is sufficient, because it has the authentic narrations that show you that Tawheed according to Ahlul Bayt means that in Ibadah, first of all, dua is Ibadah, when you're asking Hajaat across the curtain of Ghayb, and this Ibadah should be exclusively reserved for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala firmly entrench us on the Tawheed of Muhammad and Al-Muhammad salawatullahi alayhim ajma'in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrect us on the Day of Judgment on the Tawheed of Muhammad and Al-Muhammad salawatullahi alayhim ajma'in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescue those of our community members who have fallen into ghulu and shirk and have gone against the teaching of the Imams. The Imams taught you to call upon Allah. They are calling upon Imams instead of calling upon Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open their eyes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them back to the guidance and the right teaching of the Ahlul Bayt before it is too late, and before they find themselves embarrassed and humiliated on the Day of Judgment by having ignored and defied and gone against all these pure teachings that we find in the Quran and the literature of the Ahlul Bayt. Alayhimu salatu wassalamu wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.